Hey, we're live. Let me look up my mic. I think we're all good to go. Let me get this lined up. And thank you for being here. It is Wednesday, March 25th, and it was a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. It's working in the yard quite a bit. I got a sunbird. I got a redneck. So I'm officially a redneck. It's good to be here. We got a lot of stuff to discuss tonight with the Iranian war, but also other things. And always, as always, I appreciate you. Excuse me, got a cough. I appreciate you being here. If you want to interact with me, makes the show better, helps support me. YouTube has Superchats, Rumble has Rants, and I think you see the link here, Powerchats. Let me bring those up. Right here. Oops. Let me do. Here we go. Powerchats, and you can send a question or a comment there, and I do appreciate that. And let me just first, before I start the show, I always like to make sure my Rumble is going good. It is. And then I go to X just to make sure that I got everything set up correctly. I so far been pretty good at this. And I do. I do. So yeah. It's a very strange situation we're in. The title of my show is The War Escalates. It looks like it's escalating, but then at the same time, every day Trump is saying that the war has been won, and Mike Johnson saying, oh, this whole episode, Epic Fury, we're going to wrap it up here real soon. But meanwhile, we're sending troops. We're sending Marines. I think the 82nd Airborne to the Middle East. We're trying to get a ceasefire for a month with Iran, which they rejected. Which I don't understand this. If you've already defeated the enemy, why do you need a ceasefire? And the Strait of Hormuz is still closed to most traffic, so it's not really adding up. It's a very strange war of gaslighting. And this is the first war I've seen that the enemy, Iran, actually has better propaganda. They're doing really clever AI videos that tug at the heartstrings. Whereas the United States, we have like Pete Hegseth pretending he's in Team America. America, fuck yeah, let's blow them out of the sky. And it's real disjointed. And the war is not popular, although it's officially not a war. So we're in a strange situation right now of where it will go. I do think Trump would like to declare victory and end it, but the big problem is, how do we do that if Iran has their demands? Well, no, we're not ending it until you leave the Middle East, and then we're going to still attack Israel. So how does that work? Because we're owned by Israel, and because of the petrodollar, we have to stay in these Gulf states. So it's a big mess. So it's not something that Trump can just walk away from that easily. And it's funny how the objectives of this war, ever changing, are now, because now the big objective is to try to open the Strait of Hormuz. It's like, what the hell? It was open before the start of the war. So this is how the strategic goals have changed in real time, and this frequently happens in a war. So I think Trump is trying to put a happy spin on it and hope something good comes out of this. I think maybe he was hoping that the Iranians would agree to negotiations, and that's why he lied about it. I don't believe him when he said on Monday that the United States was in negotiations with the Iranians. The Iranians deny it, and Trump didn't give specifics. I guess the closest it could be is we sent messages to Iran via Pakistan, according to Iran. And we put together like a 15-point proposal that the Iranians rejected. So let's just take a look at some of the stuff here where this is. This is the official spokesgirl for the administration. It's good to have you all here. And let me just make sure. And again, if I'm having some audio problems, just let me know. But I think everything's going good. All right. So let me share this. Oh, let's see here. Here we go.
President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to
He doesn't bluff. He always bluffs. That's where we got the term taco, because Wall Street coined that term. Trump always chickens out. That's his whole strategy. That's just ridiculous. I mean, he did, right? He said, I'll give you 48 hours or I'm going to destroy your infrastructure. Well, that didn't happen. And there's so many other times he says stuff then weaseled out of it. So, yeah, he always bluffs.
unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
This is just so weird. It's like, yeah, they refuse to understand they've been defeated. They don't understand that we totally wiped out all their military. So we won't tolerate their military attacking us. Otherwise, we'll rain hell down upon them. And again, it's a weird, bizarro world. The propaganda has switched in my lifetime, because it used to be what we call third world countries, let's say like North Korea. They would have all this flowery language. We're going to release vengeance and hell and death and brimstone upon thee. And we would just kind of laugh about it. But now it's the United States using that terminology, not Iran. They're putting together some pretty good propaganda videos, and we're just having all these words like rain death upon you. And what she's saying, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, you're not recognizing your defeat. That'd be like Hitler telling Stalin after Stalingrad, you've been defeated. You've been defeated. You're not recognizing your defeat. You better stop attacking us, because we wiped out all your military, killed all your leaders. And if you do that again, we're going to rain hell upon you. It's just the weirdest message. It's just internally inconsistent. It's just, and I hate it. I hate it. I wish we had a president that was just more honest and upfront. I would still be against this war, but it'd be better if the president addressed the American people and explained specifically why we're at war, and not give all this bullshit that the war is over. And then at the same time, Trump is saying the war is over. He's going to Congress asking for $200 billion more dollars to a war that's over. It doesn't make sense. Then he's sending the Marines and the 82nd Airborne to the Middle East. Why? It's over. Why is that? If it's over, why are you worried about the Strait of Hormuz? It's obviously must be open. How could Iranians keep the Strait of Hormuz closed if they've all been wiped off? According to Pete Hegseth, they've been wiped off the face of the world or map. Oh, really? Okay, then who's blocking it then? It makes no sense. And who's firing these missiles every night at Israel and our bases? Again, this is just crazy rhetoric. And I think people can see through it. I think a better way would just to try to be honest with American people. I know you always have to put a good spin on it. You just say something like, hey, we're very optimistic. We made a lot of progress. We're still not done, though. We still have potentially a hard time ahead of us. I'm not going to lie to you, but this is why I think it's important. I think people would respond to something like that better than, we've already defeated them, and they better accept their defeat. Otherwise, and if they fight back still, we'll rain death and hell and brimstone upon them. It's just so cringy. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense here. And this was, Iran did respond to the negotiations of 15 points that we sent to them. And I'll just read, I don't speak their language, but so who's this guy? If they're all dead, why is this general still speaking and publishing shit? It's again, but anyway, Iran responds, and he said, you are reaching a stage where you are negotiating with yourselves, meaning we're not negotiating with you. I don't know what you're talking about. Do not call your defeat an agreement. There will be no news of investments in the region, and you will not see the former price of energy and oil. So Iran again has just categorically said, no, we don't want a ceasefire. We're not asking for one. You are, and we're not agreeing to your conditions. So there's a real disconnect here between the administration and what the Iranians are saying. And again, just a couple of years ago, I definitely believed Trump over the Iranians. But if you look what's happening, what Trump is saying doesn't match up with what we're seeing. If the enemy's totally defeated, they cannot keep a vital passage like the Strait of Hormuz closed, right? Logically, if they're totally defeated and have no more, he said 100% of their missiles have been wiped out. And then every night, there's more missiles hitting Israel and hitting the U.S. bases. So what's up with that? Oh, the air defense has been totally destroyed. And they're shooting our planes out of the sky. It doesn't really add up. So at this point, the American government is running propaganda lies, but in a worst way possible. It doesn't make any sense. And it's so cynical. Let me just show you something from Trump here.
From all of the tremendous success that we're having in this military operation, I won't use the word war because they say if you use the word war, that's maybe not a good thing to do. They don't like the word war because you're supposed to get approval. So I'll use the word military operation.
Isn't that cynical? Because the founders of this country, they made it clear that only Congress can go to war, not the president. And they wanted that for a reason. They didn't want one man lead us to war. And so Trump's not the first to do this, but he's just being flat out laughing about it, of saying this is a war, but we're calling it something else. So I guess it's not really a war. Yeah, it'd be like saying, oh, okay, no, I'm against rape, but hey, surprise sex is it's totally different term. And that's what Trump's trying to do here. It's so cynical. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's a war, and it's supposed to go through Congress. And yeah, if we were attacked, and obviously the commander in chief, and before he gets approval from Congress, he's got to be allowed to defend us. But that wasn't the case. We were at peace, and he just initiated a war, and he still calls it a war. He laughs about how he has to make up another terminology, but it's just so cynical. And so it's a violation of the Constitution, and he is just laughing at that. All right, now I got to. I've seen some talking points. This came originally from Mark Levin, and these people, they all get their talking points. Would you prefer that Iranian regime launches missiles at our country, or paying 50 cents more a gallon for gasoline? This is what's called a false dichotomy. That's assuming there's only two choices. Number one, this has an assumption that Iran was about to launch nuclear weapons at us. They don't have nuclear weapons, and they had no desire to make them. And they don't have the ability to launch them to us. So it's all bullshit. But this is her premise. And so it's one or the other. And, so I let's see here. I try to laugh about it, just show the absurdity about it. Be like, okay, how about this talking point? We'll do the same thing. Do you prefer your son dying in a desert for Israel, or risk being called an anti-Semite? See, we could play that game too. It's so stupid. It's just a stupid way. It's intellectually dishonest to frame things like that. But that's what they're trying to do. We went into this war for Israel. Netanyahu, for the last 40 years, has been saying Iran's 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. He knows it's not true. They want to defeat Iran because Israel wants to expand in the Middle East. They don't give a fuck about America. And that's the reason. So they got to run this stupid propaganda like, oh, Iran was about to just blow us up with nukes. No, they weren't. Then they put together this false dichotomy. Like, well, I guess I don't want to get nuked, so I guess I won't complain about the price of gasoline increasing because of this war. It's just ridiculous. All right. And here's another thing. Supposedly, we've had this glorious victory, no defeats, just incredible. And let me just take a look at this here, show you this. And again, it doesn't really add up, but I don't know. Maybe you guys can make sense of this. And this is from the New York Times. Many of the 13 bases in the region used by the American troops are all but uninhabitable, with the ones in Kuwait, which is next door to Iran, suffering perhaps the most damage. So Iran just totally wiped out our bases in the Middle East. All their soldiers have been evacuated. We don't have bases there anymore. Iran has achieved their objective. One of their objectives was driving the Americans out of the Middle East. And they pretty much have done that, at least in bases like Kuwait and Qatar and all these places. We just hightailed it out of there because they were raining missiles on these bases and our air defense wasn't stopping it. So why don't we go back to these bases if Iran has been defeated and they have no more missiles? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So Iran has already accomplished one of the war goals. They have forced the Americans out of the bases. They have forced the aircraft carriers to retreat. Yeah, it is pretty crazy here. All right. And there looks like there was another refueling plane that was hit by Iranian air defense. The media outlet, and this is Sprinter Press, which is fairly accurate, reports indicate that the Boeing KC-135 was hit by Iran. It doesn't mean it was necessarily crashed, but it does look like Iran still has air defense capabilities. All right, I think I got some super chats. I just want to get into it. Hey, I'll start this. Damian Thorne, is that Cayman Jack in a can? How do you rate the taste and buzz factor? Yeah, it is. Let me show you guys. It's Cayman Wicked, and it's extra strength, so it's 10% alcohol. I don't like getting drunk anymore because I get too sick, so I just drink one of them. And it gives me a little buzz, but I enjoy it. Just have fun on stream. I like the taste of margarita. I'm not a big heavy drinker like with whiskey or anything like that. But I it was late at night and I started doing these streams. I'm like, yeah, this looks good. And so I've started doing that. And it's good. I mean, if you like margaritas, I don't know. If you don't like margaritas, you won't like it. But it tastes like a margarita. So I enjoy that. So thank you for that. And now let's get to the other stuff here. Oh, we already got some super chats. I saw a Lego Iran AI video created by the Iranians. Funny stuff. They got a real sense of humor. Laughed my ass off. Yeah, I published a lot of the Iranian retweeted just because it's so good. It is funny. We always assume, these people are primitive desert people and silly propaganda and they ride camels. That may be true of the Iraqis and definitely the Taliban in Afghanistan. They're pretty primitive. But the Iranians, again, are not Arabs or Persians, meaning they're white, basically, and they're fairly intelligent. So they know a lot of Western memes. It's kind of interesting. And again, they're doing pretty funny propaganda versus America. Our propaganda has been so bad in this war is pretty much Pete Hegseth going, oh yeah, we're gonna fuck them up. Ooh, oh yeah, America, fuck yeah. It's like you watch that Team America, the South Park creators created. If you ever saw that movie, it was making fun of that. But it's like Pete Hegseth watched that and said, oh no, this is an instruction manual. How am I supposed to be? He's such a ridiculous character. We need people in that position that understand war is a serious thing. People die. It's horrific. It really is. What happens to bodies and innocent people like those schoolgirls or 14 servicemen now. It's sad. It doesn't mean I'm a pacifist, but you got to treat war as a serious matter, not as some video game that you think is funny. And that's how Pete Hegseth does it. And he says really stupid things that technically could get him convicted of war crimes. Like he said, yeah, we're going to fuck them up. No, we're going to ask no mercy, no quarter. What quarter means we're not going to accept people surrendering. The rules of war, if your enemy surrenders, you don't massacre them. But Pete is saying, oh, fuck that. We're just going to kill him. Well, that's a war crime. Now, to be fair, Pete Hegseth, I don't think he knows what quarter means. I don't, it's 25 cents, isn't it? Yeah. No. So he doesn't understand the old definition of the term, probably. He's really dumb. I swear Trump picked him because Trump saw him on Fox News and he kind of looks the type, the square jaw, and I'm not going to take any crap. He has all that. He's trying to come across like Patton or something like that, but he's coming across as a caricature. He's coming across as real silly and stupid, and he's not very bright. And some of the greatest generals are very thoughtful. They just don't play this role. So our propaganda is just nuts, bad. Lampshade 999. I read an article in the Knights of Columbus magazine. It said today, March 25th, Jesus was crucified in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. The ring was thrown into Mount Doom, destroyed forever. I did not know that. Thank you. That is interesting information. That was interesting. Oh, this is also the day we celebrated Benji. And Sasha got mad at me because she said, you made everyone hate Benji because I said he's a pit bull. I don't know. Maybe he's not. We don't know. We haven't had him tested. Looks like a pit bull. But I have to say with Benji, we found him. He's the sweetest. He's like, I've had a lot of dogs. I love dogs. But most dogs are kind of wary of new people, or even if they're not mean. And my grandma had a little dachshund that was really attacked everyone. But Benji just is an extrovert that loves everyone. So if he sees you, he's not going to be a good guard dog. He just, I love you. And that's the way he is with dogs and people. He's just really crazy that way. He likes to chew a lot, but he's a super friendly dog. So I'm trying to rehabilitate his image. And he's actually kind of scared of the other dog. The most spiritually Jewish propaganda I've ever seen. Verbal manipulation is off the charts. Yeah, I mean, this was in the Merchant of Venice, Shylock. They talked about that. It's the difference between the legalism versus the spirit of the law. Well, Jesus talked about this because the Pharisees, they would do everything trying to trick God. And in Judaism, they still do. Because like on, I think the Sabbath, they're not supposed to go outside. So in New York City, I thought this is a weird conspiracy theory, but it's really true. You can look it up. They have this fish line. They run around all of Manhattan, I think. And because of that, that's to fool God that when they go out in the street, they're actually still inside because they're inside that fish line. So Judaism seems to be all about tricking God. It's bizarre because how do you trick God, the all-knowing? And Jesus criticized the Pharisees on this. He said, okay, you do all these rituals, but you're just horrible people. Do you really think God's not going to punish you for that? Do you really think you're getting one over on him? And that was Jesus's message. It's the spirit of the law. Instead of being into all this legalism and doing all these rituals, because what difference does it make if you do all the rituals and at the time they did their sacrifice in the temple and you do all the stuff, all the prayers you're supposed to do, but then you treat people horribly? Jesus said, what do you think you gain? You think you gained anything? And Jesus said, no, you haven't gained anything. God's not going to be fooled. And doing that is really, again, it's not a Christian spirit because we understood when we founded it, the founding fathers, well, whatever you call war, it needs to be go to Congress. You can't, just change the name and think you're being cute about it. But it is, I think, pretty disgusting to do that sort of thing. It's just dishonest. It just feels dirty to do that. And I just don't really care about that. All right. So here's some talk about again, Sprinter Press are pretty good. During the war, it's always tough because with the AI videos and all that bullshit. So I try to be careful.
Seems that they have something that they are using, and actually the IRGC announced that they are using a new system that was developed after the 12-day war. The 12-day was the one that took place last year. And
so they're talking about an air defense system, and there's a lot of speculation because they're able to see now stealth fighters. This is a problem for us. That one F-35, they were able to see it because of the thermal imaging, and they shot it down. What actually happened, they shot the missile. They were able to see the jet. They shot the missile, and the jet then it just automatically detected the missile coming and sent out some really hot flak and to try to divert the missile. And the missile hit that, exploded, and there was a lot of shrapnel, and some of that shrapnel damaged the plane, so the pilot had to make an emergency landing, and the pilot was injured by the shrapnel. So that's what happened then. But this was supposed to be impossible. So the question is, where did they get this? Did they get this from the Russians? Do the Russians have this technology? Probably. Did they get it from the Chinese? Chinese probably have this technology too. Or was it homegrown? And one of the things that I think surprises people, again, because we're thinking, oh, they're just, dumb Arabs like the Afghanis, they're herding goats, right, with sandals and AK-47s. And again, they're not that way. They're fairly sophisticated, and they're not that stupid, and they have scientists that can develop things. And Iran, they've always been, well, since the revolution, very isolationist in a lot of ways. I don't like the term isolationist, but they've been skeptical or leery of having Russia come in too much because of their history, and even China. I mean, they're friendly with Russia and China, but historically, when Russia or China has offered help, they're like, "Nah, we're okay, we're good, we're developing our own stuff." So I don't know if this is Iranian air defense they developed or they're getting help. But obviously, they still have air defense despite what Trump is saying.
June 2025. So they said that after the 12-day war, they developed or acquired a system that is capable of hitting American planes. We saw the F-35. Actually, there was reports from both sides. The Iranians said that they targeted it, and the American side said that it was targeted, and the pilot survived. However, he had to go through treatment. Then we saw the pictures coming today of the F-18, reports, as I said, of F-16 and F-15. So it seems that the Iranians are trying a new weapon. We don't know what's this weapon. We don't know what this system is. Is it a weapon or a system? It all depends on what they are using currently. But the fact here is that a narrative that was set over the past 3 weeks, that the skies of Iran are completely open, seems to be right now compromised, and that the Iranians are being capable, at least in some incidents or in some events, of targeting American or Israeli airplanes.
Yeah, that seems true. And also, the Americans have been avoiding sending the planes directly over Iran. They come close to Iran, then they launch their missiles, the JASSM missiles. They're not using gravity bombs where we just fly over, or the Air Force flies over a target and drops a bunch of dumb bombs, which are cheaper. So I think Iran does have a fairly, at least at times, sophisticated air defense. Now, they're not stopping the missiles that are Israel and America is hitting them with. Their oil refineries and so forth are being hit. So that is the situation there. And again, if I was president, well, first of all, I wouldn't be in this war. But if I wasn't the president with this, and I had to be in a war like this, I would just be honest and say, hey, let's not underestimate our adversary. I always learn it's better to set expectations lower or more conservative And then if you exceed it, people are really excited. I don't know if I did that in business or whatever. So let's say I used to be a software developer, and let's say you had to estimate how long it's going to create to be a project done. And let's say you don't know for sure, but you want to be conservative. And so give yourself some buffer room in case something goes wrong. So let's say you say, I don't know, 8 months, but then you're able to get it done in 6 months. The customer is going to be really happy. It's like, wow, you got it in early. Thank you. I didn't expect this. This is cool. So you're setting expectations kind of low that you can exceed them. But if you come in all bullshit and tell the customer, oh, yeah, we'll have it next week. No, we'll have it next week. And then it takes you 6 months, the customer is going to be really pissed because you set the expectations so high that you get it done so quick and it didn't happen. So I'm not really sure because Trump's in sales. I know he's a marketing, wants to try to, bullshit things up, but it can really backfire on you if all of this Trump is saying, and God forbid, let's say we do end up with ground troops and we lose thousands of soldiers. It turns into a Vietnam situation, and we're still fighting there a year later. I doubt that would happen. He'll be removed, but yeah, all these comments are going to come back to haunt people. So if you're going to speak to the American people as a president, I would set expectations pretty conservative, saying Iran, let's not, take them lightly. They have a lot of sophisticated weapons. We think they're supplied by Russia and they're getting help by China. We need to do this. We may take casualties. We will win, but I don't want to lie to the American people that this is going to be easy. See, that's, I think, a better message to put out than literally every day. I've started to make fun of it. Other people do too. Every day, Trump gets in front of the cameras and claims we won the war. It's just ridiculous. It's like a comedy skit now. Monty Python but it's not funny because it's a real war. But they decided to do this, and so anyway, Trump is running around again today saying we won the war. And then meanwhile, they're briefing members of Congress, and the Congress, they're getting a totally different talking points. Just walked out of a House Armed Services briefing on Iran. Let me repeat, I will not support troops on the ground in Iran, even more so after this briefing. So a lot of it's confidential. She can't say what was said, but with a lot of the people, if you read between the lines, the administration is telling Congress that we are going to have to send like Marines in and boots on the ground, and it could be a bloody war. And the war was not sold this way. It was sold as something be real quick, just no boots on the ground, just a bombing campaign, help the Iranian people overthrow their evil government. That's how it was sold. And now they're talking boots on the ground, which again is the administration is putting out two different messages. Every day they get in front of the cameras and say, we have won this glorious war. Iran, they're totally defeated. They don't have an army, nothing. But then they're telling Congress, like, yeah, this is getting difficult. We're going to have to send troops in because we don't know what to do. So again, people can see through this you're lying. And it's not good as the president to lie to the American people. I know there's some things that need to be classified and secret. You can't reveal all your plans, but it's not good to just straight out lie to the Americans when people can see this. It's obviously a lie. And the whole idea of sending troops in could be a disaster. And we'll see a little clip on this. Now, to be fair, a lot of people are thinking, well, maybe Trump is just sending these troops as a way to scare Iran as a negotiating tactic. Again, I don't know why we need to negotiate Iran if they've been totally defeated. So we're not going to pretend they're not defeated. They are winning the war. And I'm pro-America, but again, this war is not for America, it's for Israel. But just being objective, they are achieving their objectives. Their regime is still intact. In fact, the guy that in charge now was more hardline than his dad. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, they're still in control. They now have closed the Strait of Hormuz, and we can't do shit about it. Our bases in the Gulf states have been evacuated because Iran's fucked them up. Our aircraft carrier, Gerald Ford, is limping back to the United States because of a laundry fire or something like that. The Abraham Lincoln was attacked, we heard yesterday, by Trump by 100 Iranian missiles, and they retreated further back, so they're scared. And so there's no way they're winning. They're winning their objectives. And Trump saying every day that we're winning is just crazy. But the idea was, okay, that we'll send troops over. Iran obviously knows we're sending them. This will scare them, and they'll agree to a deal, because Donald Trump always likes to talk about deals. I'm the master of making deals, the art of the deal. I have all this 4D chess, all that bullshit. And so that could be a possibility. But I don't know. I think if Iran won't make a deal with us, what other option Trump has other than try to escalate? And I was just a kid at the time, but this is exactly what happened in Vietnam. We started, under JFK, let's just send some special forces, military advisors to Vietnam to help the South Vietnamese. And then we had to escalate it to, we're going to send in Marines, but just to defend the port. That's it. Now, we're not a offensive missions, just, defensive. But that base was attacked, and then the mission increased. And we sent more Marines there, and we started going the offensive, and, the rest is history. So we're going through this whole escalation ladder where we keep increasing it and trying to double down. Because just like Johnson, LBJ, he said, he couldn't get out of the war. He didn't want the war, but he didn't want to be, he didn't want to lose face as being seen as weak. And he was like the first president to lose a war. He said that. He said, I think his exact quote, I don't want to be the first president to lose a goddamn war. He liked to swear a lot. And so because of his ego, they kept it in. And we're seeing this with Trump now. All right, let's just take a look at some of the this here. There's some points here. Oh.
But those others coming in will come in very, very slowly. When you're talking about the rest of the 82nd Airborne Division, still that's a relatively small force, about 15 to 18,000 soldiers, depending on how many you bring in with the entire division.
Yeah, we're not sending that many. Again, Iran has basically a 1 million-man army. And you could say, they suck. But I don't know. That's what we thought about their missiles and drones, and they haven't. But so the amount of troops we're sending in is not enough to take Iran. So the question is, what is the mission? Trying to take the Strait of Hormuz? Well, that'd be difficult because it's really well defended and it's real rocky cliffs. Try and take Karg Island? That'd be a turkey shoot because the Iranians would just bomb it. So what is the mission here?
In a land that's as big as Iran, with the kind of terrain they have and the geography, even supported by a massive number of overhead aircraft and Tomahawk missiles, these two forces.
And by the way, our Tomahawk missiles are being depleted, and they take a long time to create new ones.
Can form a lodgment, as the military calls it, but they can't do a whole lot more until more follow-on forces come in. So I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what these two MEUs and one brigade are going to do. Now, the 82nd Airborne has also deployed their command post, which indicates to me that more are going to come in. But first of all, where are you going to put them as they all pull together? Because you can't put them immediately into Iran. They don't have the logistics support to go in there.
This is a good point, and I brought this up before. This is what's so different because of technology than the Iraq war in 2003. Remember that war? We were able to build up our troops in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia with no issue. I Iraq couldn't do anything about it because they didn't really have any sophisticated missiles. They had, I think, Scuds, and they weren't very accurate, and they didn't have satellite information. So they didn't know where our troops were, really. Whereas now, the Iranians, they through the Russians or Chinese, they can see in real time where our troops are and where are we going to assemble them where they won't immediately be attacked by missiles and drones. See, this is a problem.
Where are they going to go? What are their missions going to be? What are the follow-on forces? Because these three forces, 2 MEUs and a brigade, are designed to open a fight, but not to finish one. And so we're thinking about putting a lot of forces on the ground. This is an opening gambit, and it's interesting that it's taking place while we're still bombing and conducting peace talks in Pakistan.
Yeah, these are my understanding, these Marine forces and 82nd Airborne. They're light, pretty much light infantry. And what I mean by that is they don't have heavy tanks and they're not set up for sustained combat. They are more, you send them in initially to try to establish a beachhead. Yeah, I'm sure they're great fighters. They're well trained. I think the 82nd Airborne is the most elite group in outside special forces in the Army. And then you have a couple of Marine units. So what is their mission? There's not enough to take over Iran. I don't think it's enough to take over Hormuz. And as this guy said, what you would have to do, and this guy is a U.S. general, a former U.S. general, so he knows the stuff. They could come in, the 82nd Airborne, and maybe parachute in or whatever, and establish a beachhead, if you will. But then you have to have a follow-on where you have the heavy infantry and armor coming in, where you ship in tanks and everything else to the beachhead, so you can eventually expand the beachhead. Remember Normandy in World War II? We landed in France and then had a beachhead, and we expanded it. We sent more and more supplies in. But that is a huge logistical operation, and we haven't started any of that. And we don't have that big of an army anymore. There's a whole shitload of problems here because, again, our whole military has been redesigned, I think, by mistake, that all wars are going to be really quick now, and we don't need, these big, heavy infantry units with tanks and all this sort of thing. We just need these light, rapid response. We could, like you have an issue in Venezuela or something, or some buttfuck country in Africa. You can send them in there, and they can, crack heads and resolve the situation pretty quick. But when you're dealing with a serious war against a large army, it's a different situation. And how are they going to get in? Are they going to parachute in? Because we can't get through the Strait of Hormuz. Our warships are scared to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So how are we going to get them in? We can't do it by Navy. And there's really not a good land route that we could go in. I guess you could try to stage them in Iraq, but Iraq is a big mess. There's a lot of Shia militias that are fighting still. So it's not a good staging location. So this whole war boots thing, or sending ground troops, it's an escalation that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But we will see. They're headed over there, despite the fact we already won the war. But so that is what they will do here. There's some speculation. Let's take a look at this. Oh, let me get some super chats here. I think I saw a couple out of the corner of my eyes. Lampshade 999. If you were president, what kind of ice cream would you order? How many scoops? How fast would the ice cream arrive? That's like Joe Biden. He liked ice cream. This sounds kind of strange. I like sherbet. I really do. I like lemon, lime, pineapple. That's what I would have. How many scoops? I don't want like too many scoops because it falls off the cone. So 1 scoop. And how fast would it arrive? It'd arrive right away. So thank you for that. All right. Now you got me hungry for ice cream. Nuck. I won't say his last name. Figures. You guys could put that together. $5. I guess Pete's Princeton and Harvard's degree didn't work out too well for him. He comes across as really dumb. I don't know. But anyway, those elite schools, they're no longer about being necessarily that you're real bright. It's more if you have connections. That's typically what it means now. So yeah, just because someone goes to an elite school doesn't necessarily mean anymore they're intelligent. I think those days are long gone. But back in the day, that used to mean that. But yeah, that is what it is there. All right, let's see here. Okay. Oh, yeah, we're going to do the, let's see, some of the potential strategy. I got another super chat. Thank you. Horror moose are very dangerous during rutting mating season. Yeah, they can be. They become very aggressive. The Canadians tried to tame them but failed. Horror moose are dangerous. Yeah, moose can be dangerous. Those animals can be quite dangerous. Deer are dangerous here just because you can run into them and they're kind of stupid. They always run out in front of the car. And where I live, there's tons of deer. I just saw some today. They were crossing the road. That's I see deer all the time. But yeah, that's always a fear when you're driving fast in the highway. In the country, there's a lot of deer and they can jump out on the road. I've learned a few tricks just from some of the locals. If you see one deer go across the road, even though he gets across the road, hit your brakes because more than likely there's others that are going to follow. And that does hold true. So if you see one go across, hit the brakes. Don't think, oh, he's gone away. No, others could be following. So a lot of people hit deer around here and mess up their cars. Some people die. It can be dangerous. So you got to be careful about that, deer. I don't think we have moose here. We have elk, but I don't think we have moose. I've seen moose in Alaska. That was a great trip. I went up there and a moose is a really amazing specimen. They are huge animals. And yeah, that is pretty cool. I got a couple of rants on Rumble. Thank you. Is Cardinal 7 first time supporting? Just love your level-headed commentary. Shane, what the Trump legacy has become. Well, thank you. Yeah, I try to keep it real, as the brothers would say. I know it. Doing extremism, I'm just being more, not extremism. What word am I trying to look? Being everything is the end of the world, hyperbole. I get that sells better, kind of Alex Jones-ish. When anything happens, like in Venezuela, World War III, it's not always that way. And that's why, for an example, if I want to put some calmness to this whole situation, the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, it doesn't mean it's the end of, even if we never open it up again, it's not the end of the world. First of all, oil's still going to go through because Iranians, they just will get a cut of it. They're going to charge a toll. So oil will eventually go through again, the Strait of Hormuz. But it's only like 20% of the total oil in the world goes through that strait. And again, what happens? So it's not like 80%. We have a lot of oil here in Russia and other places. So there's a lot of other options. And it's not like if that 20%, it hurts because you reduce that 20%, the supply decreases. And if you know economic supply and demand, the supply decreases and the demand stays the same, prices are going to go up. All right. But it's not going to be catastrophic because it's only 20%. But it's even not that bad because, first of all, it's not all 20%. Iranian oil still going through to China, so that's going through. China can still ship oil through because they have a deal with Iran. So it's not even a full 20%. And then what happens when the price of oil gets expensive? I know this, my daughter's in the oil industry. The domestic oil producers, they produce more oil. It's not like they produced all they can all the time. They throttle it based on the price. So if the price of oil is pretty low, there's not much as a profit margin. So they kind of scale back. But if the price gets high, then they open it up and more oil hits the market. And I assume they do the same thing in other countries like Russia and so forth. So, um, yeah, there'll be less oil out of the Strait of Hormuz, but then you're going to see an increased oil production in Russia and United States. And then combine that with the demand will be reduced because if the prices go up, people don't drive as much or airlines don't fly as much, and that reduces the demand. And if you reduce the demand, what happens? That lowers the prices. So it's not the end of the world. It's kind of a pain for it to be closed. And it could be the end of the world for the Gulf states, which, because of the petrodollar, long term could be the end of the world for us. But short term, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be $200 a barrel. I'm like, I don't think so. You could be wrong. I just really don't think so. And that's why everyone's like so surprised about the oil markets. Again, I have family in the oil industry. Why hasn't it gone up to, it's actually gone down? I'm like, yeah, why would it? It's not always going to go up forever. Why would it? Because again, they just produce more oil, and more oil means, the prices go down. And the markets say, hey, this is probably going to be resolved one way or the other. It may not be the United States victory. Maybe the United States wins and we take the Strait of Hormuz and we open it up. That's one possibility. But another possibility is Iran wins and they control the strait, but then they allow tankers through, but they're going to want a cut. They want some of their money. And that's what Iran has said. So there's not really a scenario where no oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz long term. So that's it's all factored in. So I know a lot of people are getting scared and, I won't be able to buy gas for my car. I'm like, no, we're totally self-sufficient in the United States. Even we don't need any oil from outside, really. So, I mean, we get some outside oil because of how the markets work. But so I try to balance things, even though it works better. If you're like, oh, we're all going to die, we're all going to die. And, put like a picture of a nuclear explosion on the thumbnail and then doing those faces, right? This is what they always do because I don't have a thumbnail guy. I guess some people like the quartering actually pays a thumbnail guy. I don't have a thumbnail guy, but you got to have like a mushroom cloud. And then you got to do one of those goofy faces they do for YouTube, like that, because that's supposed I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do a face to get people, it's the end of the world. But it does attract people, I guess. Whatever. Let's see here. I have some other rants here. But anyway, thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate that. Rowhouse. Rams, I wonder why Dennis Prager caring about Americans is the worst position. All right, let's take a look at this. I think I've seen this. I didn't click on it, but I saw it. Oh, that was the other one I had up. We'll get to that one next. Dennis Prager and Jeremy Boring admit they aren't America first, denounce Americans for only being loyal to America, and imply they should be loyal to Israel.
Yesterday, he said that is only loyalty. Now notice, he used the word only. It is only loyal, not first.
This guy sounds like Darth Vader. What the hell? Is there a demon in it? This is the weirdest voice.
His only loyalty is to the American people.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the issue?
Why is that noble? Why is that Christian? That's your only loyalty?
Yeah, you should only be loyal to the country. You shouldn't have divided loyalties. Actually, Jesus taught that, not so much on countries, but in matters concerning God. He said you can't be under light and darkness. You can't serve two masters because you will end up hating one and loving the other. You just can't do it. So you can't serve both Israel and America. And people that do that end up hating America. We've seen it.
I just don't get it. It's a tribal based morality.
Jewish guys complaining about tribal based moralities. That's rich.
That I don't relate to.
It's not even a truthful statement. I mean, I don't know Tucker Carlson on a personal level. As an observer, though, he certainly has other loyalties than just to the American people. He's expressed additional loyalties. He said he has loyalty to the United States, which presumably is different than the people. He's obviously got loyalty to his family, one would assume, to his brother very publicly, very obviously.
Well, duh. I mean, I don't understand this. This is how nationalism works. I've explained this before, but it's like it's a concentric circle. It's like you throw a rock in a pond and you have like a little small circle, then the bigger circle and the bigger, you know that? Well, the little small circle is your immediate family, the people you love. They're more important to you than anything else. Then you have your other circle, which is more of your extended family. Then maybe you have your community. Then you have your state, and then you have the country, and then you have so forth. That's how it works, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I don't understand the issue here.
I know people who've worked for him, both at Fox and at his network. When he first started the Tucker Carlson network, he hired a bunch of Daily Wire and former Daily Wire employees, and by all accounts, he shows great loyalty to the people who work for him. So it's not his only loyalty, and I don't know why it would be good if it were his only loyalty. Like you, I'm not.
I don't know. This guy's dense, or he's not very smart, or is he just pretending not to be smart? I don't know. He's saying, Tucker's saying, my only loyalty in the political sense is to my people, my nation. And a nation is not the same thing as a government. A nation is the people related by blood, common denominators. If a bunch of Muslims come over here wearing hijabs in the Walmart, they're not my nation. They could be United States citizens, but they're not part of my nation. So you have to be loyal to your nation. And Jews understand that. They're loyal to their nation, the Jewish people, even if they're not in Israel.
Even altogether sure what that means or why it would be virtuous for that to be your only loyalty.
Well, so you don't have conflicting desires. Like what happens if there's a situation where America's interests do not align with Israel? Who do you side with? And I would say right now, most of the Christian Zionists and people like Tom Cotton and Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, they will side with Israel, a foreign country. That's the problem. Now, because you're loyal to your own nation, it doesn't necessarily follow that you hate everyone else. And this is a false dichotomy they've always used. It's funny because they don't use it for themselves. But if you say, yeah, I love white people, I prefer to be around white people, they will say, oh, that means you hate everyone else. It's like, no, it doesn't mean I hate everyone else, but I prefer my own kind. But this is how they set it up. So being American first and loving your nation, like I do, it doesn't mean I hate Hungary. I used to live briefly in Hungary. I love the Hungarian people. I do. I love Hungary, but there's no divided loyalties there. But because I'm America first, it doesn't mean I have to hate Hungary, for example. That's just stupid. But this is how they try to do these false dichotomies all the time. And it works on stupid people. It's like, oh, you're loyal to America only? Obviously, you hate Israel then. Why are you such an anti Semite Jew hater? That's how they would frame it. And it's like, what are you talking about? But this is, it's like that lady I showed you that tweet. Which would you rather have? Iranian blowing up, killing you with a nuclear bomb, or paying 50 cents more at the pump? I'm like, that's a false dichotomy, and it's based on a false premise. It's just ridiculous. But they deal with these really sloppy intellectual positions that, again, I don't know if they're really stupid or they're not educated, or they're just being deceptive. I would assume at least Dennis Prager, based on his age, he probably went through university at a time like I did, that there was some intellectual rigor, so you understood these things. So he's just, I think, being deceptive.
But presumably one wouldn't say it unless they at least thought that it sounds like something that would be good if it were true. I don't even think it would be good if it were true, and it very plainly isn't.
Well, isn't that the same as saying my country right or wrong? I gave a brief statement to the PragerU team.
No, well, let me just, my country right or wrong, it doesn't mean that you support all the actions of your government or think your nation is perfect, but this is our nation. These are our people. It's like your family. And that's what a nation is. It's an extended family. And again, of all people, Jews understand that. There are a group of people that are bound together by tradition, somewhat of religion, blood. This is what binds them together. And we are the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Well, about a week ago. And I said, you know, I'm not America first. I'm morality first.
Well,
That is said.
Let me get back to that. Sorry, I missed that.
Team about a week ago. And I said, you know, I'm not America first. I'm morality first.
Well, you're mixing categories. That's like saying, I don't love my son and daughter first. I love morality first. They're not in competition. In fact, loving the people closest to you in your nation, that's a part of morality. That's part of the morality I subscribe to. That's so he's mixing concepts here. And he's acting like this is clever. And it's like, no, it's stupid.
What is good and what is true are my first loyalties. You know, there's a biblical injunction: do not stand by the blood of your neighbor. Does that play a role in Tucker Carlson's moral universe?
I think so. Much more so than you Zionists that go around are extremely bloody with other people that you think are beneath you by your own religion, that they're like cattle, and how you deal with the Palestinians. Tucker, I think, if I'm speaking for him, I'll speak for myself. I don't believe in going to other countries and fighting these wars unless they threaten America and they attack America. Yeah, then we fight them hard. Otherwise, we don't get involved. And so let's say if I was president, those little schoolgirls, 170 of them in Iran, they would be alive today if I was president. But because Trump, for whatever reason, has a divided loyalty now, you see the result. So this does get back into morality. Having a divided loyalty is immoral, right? And so they are connected.
Or is it just American? I wrote a piece a few years ago. Is it America first, or is it America only?
Hmm.
And he used the word only. And so that's a very, very distressing thing.
Yeah, it's and again because they're upset that people are no longer caring about Israel. Yeah, it's interesting how they try to frame that, and they do it with dumb people that can't think critically. Don't you know that supporting America first is immoral? Shouldn't you support morality before America? It's just it's so dumb, but this is how they frame things, and it's frustrating. Um, Art the Clown. My bone spurs want to send Americans to die. He can go to hell. Mr. Bone Spurs. Yeah, and again, this comes with morality. Is it really moral to send kids to die for another country because they want to expand? A country that rejects Jesus Christ and hates Jesus? A country that engages in genocide, at least with Gaza? Is that moral? So they're intertwined. Damian T-Bone, that guy sounds like the victims in the movie Motel Hell. Yeah, I felt bad because maybe he's got a disease or something. So I'm not trying to make fun of his disease, but he just sounds strange. But maybe he's got a disease. Maybe he lost his larynx or something. That's what it sounds like. I don't know. So, but I disagree with him on the other part. So, all right, we'll go over this part here. Let's get back to Trump. And this is a problem we're having with Trump. This is Zero Has. Report alleges Trump's daily military briefing scrubs out Iran war setbacks. So it's been rumored, and it seems to be a lot of more than a rumor because a lot of people are reporting on it. The Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, warns everyone if you're going to talk to the president, he doesn't want to hear any negative news. He just wants positive news. So, because of that, this is now, at least this been reporting, they're not telling him issues with the war. They're just showing him like really cool explosions that I'm sure Pete Hegseth is like, yeah, fuck yeah, America. But is this really furthering our interests, whatever our objectives are? I don't even know what the objectives are. Is it to open the Strait of Hormuz? Because we had that before the start of the war. Good job. And is it regime change? They say, well, no, we already have regime change. We killed the guy. We've got a guy that's even more hardline now. Good job. Well, we want to stop them from developing nuclear weapons. They already agreed to that. So it's like, what is this? What are we doing here? So part of the problem is, and this is a new for Trump. This is throughout history. This is where you get the phrase "kill the messenger." It was back in the day, despots, if they had a messenger sent them bad news, they would kill the messenger. So let's say, a Roman emperor, a messenger would come back, oh no, our legions have been defeated in Germany, or Gaul. They would kill the messenger because he doesn't want to hear bad news. And so this is a dangerous thing. If you're a leader, you have to be able to listen to things that you don't necessarily like so you can understand it. But it sounds like they're trying to keep Trump in a bubble. And I blame Trump because if he can't see about this, he should be removed. If he's too old to be able to function and see through this. But it seems like they're keeping him in a bubble and just telling him imaginary things about how wonderful it is. So maybe the disconnect is, and I hadn't really thought of this much, is maybe Trump really does believe Iran has been totally defeated, because that's what Pete Hegseth tells them every day when he sees all the cool explosion videos. And so he doesn't understand why the Strait of Hormuz is closed. He doesn't understand why Israel's attacked every night. He doesn't understand why our bases are attacked every night. But Pete's telling him everything's wonderful. And so there's a real disconnect there, but he doesn't want to hear, and that is the problem if that's the case. You got to be honest. You got to be able to listen to everything, and that is the issue. And here's a Republican saying this, a U.S. senator.
Here's the problem. The strait was open before the war began. We are now seeking to solve a problem that we created. This is insanity. $2 billion is a lot of money. That's the minimum amount of money that is being spent every single day on this war. There are over a dozen families who are burying their loved ones in the United States, and there may be dozens more if this war continues. Prices are skyrocketing, not just in America, but all across.
So he brings up the point too, the change, the objective of the war to open the Strait of Hormuz wasn't even an issue before the war. So yeah, that is a issue there. All right, let's see here. And this is reported. It's not. Breaking. Russia is delivering drones to Iran, according to Financial Times report. Well, we supply military equipment to Ukraine, so that would make sense that Russia would do the same. It was kind of ironic because when the Russian war started against Ukraine, Russia actually got a lot of drones from Iran. They got a lot of the technology from Iran because Iran was a leader in, especially this Shahid. That's that small drone that they use that's not as expensive. So, that is making this a little bit more complicated, because the question is, can Iran continue to make missiles? Trump says no. But what I've heard, they have a lot of underground under this big mountain, kind of like a James Bond type of thing, where they actually have a missile production that our bunker busters can't destroy, and they're continuing to put out missiles and drones. But they seem to have an unlimited supply. I mean, maybe they don't. I don't know, but it seems like it. But even if they don't have that, they are still potentially being supplied by the Russians. And who knows? Maybe the Chinese. It wouldn't be the first time that happened in Vietnam. Initially, Vietnam wasn't being supplied by anyone. Then they started to be supplied by both the Russians and the Chinese, even though at the time Russia and China weren't getting along, but they're both trying to get influence in Vietnam. So that could happen. The longer this goes on, the more support Iran, I predict, will get from outside countries, because it's in the interest of outside countries like Russia and China to drain the American resources. Okay, some more analysis of where this is about the war.
I wish I could give you perfect clarity, but there is a lot of confusion right now about exactly who's talking to who and what they are proposing. Not long ago this afternoon, President Trump said that Marco Rubio was talking to the Iranians, which is the first time we've heard that. And then he listed Witkoff and Kushner and I think a couple of other names. It's hard to know whether he was throwing names out, whether he's talking about serious conversations as opposed to maybe, kind of superficial contacts that are exploring the possibility of more serious dialogue.
Well, according to the Iranians, there have been no real negotiations. We have, through Pakistan, what the Iranians are saying, sent a proposal, I think it's 15 points, to the Iranians. But there hasn't been any sit down negotiations. Trump was bullshitting all that.
But a couple things are clear, I would say, and noteworthy. Number one is that, President Trump, although the military campaign continues, I think is very clearly looking for a way out of this, right? He set a deadline going into the weekend. He extended it on Monday morning, and many people say he did that because he wanted to prevent the markets from crashing. But he's talking about talking, and he is not ruling that out. And you also see a lot of U.S. allies, the Egyptians, the Pakistanis, the Turks. There are reports of Gulf Arab states getting involved. You're seeing that a lot of countries are trying to find a resolution to this, right? Like countries are stepping forward, wanting to be mediators, wanting to bring gatherings of diplomats together to find some way to end this crisis, which is jacking up oil prices, damaging specific economies in the Middle East, and threatening the entire world economy.
Yeah, so a lot of the countries are allies in the Gulf states. They're getting really upset about this, and they definitely want a way out of this, and they're pushing for that. So, but the question is, what's the way out? Yeah, if we give in to Iranian demands, pull out of the Middle East and no longer support Israel, I pay reparations. I don't see that happening. And so that just leaves what? Sending ground troops in, but we don't have really the logistics for that to make it work. So there's really no good answer right now. Trump's put himself into a sticky situation. That was his own fault because other people warned him, but he decided to listen to people like Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, Netanyahu, but other people like Tucker Carlson really tried to stop this. And we'll take a look at this. This is, here we go. This is Greenwald speaking about it.
In Tucker's case, if you go and ask Tucker, he will tell you that, for a long time, I was his harshest critic. He said I wrote, the meanest things about him. But I actually, in the last decade, absolutely consider Tucker to be an overall force for good. I mean, obviously, if you're opposed to the Iran war, as most Americans are, Tucker's efforts to stop this war were Herculean, and he sacrificed his relationship with President Trump, who ended up denouncing him publicly. He did not get his way. That war did start. There's been many other instances where Tucker did not get his way. And President Trump, most people would not jeopardize a relationship with President Trump for a cause because of how valuable that relationship is. Tucker has repeatedly done so. I'm not saying everything Tucker has said has been in agreement with me. I'm not saying it hasn't deviated from the facts. I'm not saying that he doesn't occasionally wander in the conspiracy theory. I think that's true of a lot of people. In fact, most people. But I don't feel my reporting, my journalism has focused on the people who can start wars, like the U.S. security state, and the people who can spy on us, like the NSA, and the people who go around the world killing people.
Yeah, so I agree with him. I mean, Tucker did his best to stop it, try to talk Trump down from the ledge. And I think not having Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk really had the ear of Donald Trump. And then he was assassinated. And Charlie Kirk became unpopular with some Zionists because Charlie at the end said, I can't support these people. They're confirming every stereotype about them. And he's gone now. And instead of Charlie Kirk, we have Laura Loomer, which is fucking insane. But there we are. So Tucker did his best to try to stop this before the war. And, he didn't get anything out of it money-wise or anything. So I admire Tucker for trying that. And so this is where we are right now. All right. The Iranians, they put out their view of the situation here. And the Iranian military, And they said that strategic assessment of Trump's goal and maneuvering around the issue of negotiations, while in reality, no negotiations have taken place, is as follow. Number one, to divert global attention from his retreat from the 48-hour deadline. Yeah, again, that was another taco. Trump always chickens out. Trump acted impulsively on Truth Social because Israel attacked a Iranian nuclear facility. The Iranians responded by attacking Israel's facility or nearby, and they really hit Israel hard, and the Patriot missiles didn't stop the Iranian missiles. Trump was angry, and he said they need to open the Strait of Hormuz in 48 hours or he would destroy Iranians' energy system, which technically is a war crime. But he was mad and he said that. And then I think his advisors, they said, well, you can't really do that because if you do that, the Iranians, they're going to fuck up stuff in the Middle East. Everything's going to go crazy and you're going to get even more unpopular. So he had to walk it back. So I think he just made up a story that we had great negotiations with Iran. So he decided to delay it 5 days. That's this Friday, right? We'll see what happens after the supposed 5-day deadline. But there was no negotiations. I guess Trump could try to spin it because we did send a message to the Iranians through the Pakistanis, but that's not negotiations. 2, to reduce oil prices by substantiating rumors of negotiations, even if they are false. Some people got really rich on this just 15 minutes before Trump made his announcements. They sold or they took positions that benefited them. And I think definitely this is why Trump made the announcement Monday morning. To reinforce forces and air defense in countries across the region, to prepare for ground operations, to obtain intelligence on the locations of Iran's senior officials in order to assassinate them, and to portray Iran as responsible for rejecting ceasefire negotiations, even though a ceasefire does not take Iran's conditions into account at all and would merely allow the aggressors to rebuild their equipment and attack again in a few months. So they're taking a line that's very similar to Russia did with Ukraine. Like, no, we're not going to do a ceasefire. Why do we want to do a ceasefire? Give a chance to Ukraine to rebuild. So Iran, they're pretty upfront saying they're not interested right now in negotiations. And I think their analysis could be quite accurate, actually. Randall Flagg, Tucker said the last time he talked to Trump directly, Trump honestly believes his war with Iran has 90% support with Republicans. I do believe he's being manipulated somewhat like Biden, but not as extreme. Yeah, I do think Trump is in a bubble and thinks this is a very popular war. It's amazing you think that, but he's been really isolated. And remember how proud he was that, 100% of MAGA supports the war. Well, how many people are MAGA? That's quickly a dwindling number. But, let's face it, Trump's an older boomer, Fox News type boomer, and those type of people do support the war. So I'm not saying everyone's against the war. There is a demographic that thinks, as I said, it's supported by this Jewish Zionists, obviously, because it's helping their homeland, like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, so forth. They see America, sole function is to help their ethno-state. They don't give a fuck about America. Is them. You have the Christian Zionists who believe this will bring back Jesus Christ. And you have some of the old boomers that aren't really informed and they still think it's 1979 and the hostage crisis, and somehow they're related to 9/11, all that type of stuff. Alan Dershowitz attacks the true GOP Rams for opposing the war. All right, let's take a look at this. This is a guy. Oh, I remember I did a video. He called Ron Paul a vicious anti-Semite. I did a video about that because Ron Paul opposed all foreign aid, including Israel. He's a vicious anti-Semite.
We're seeing an attempted coup within the Republican Party by neo-Nazi fascists, led by Kemp, who is a clear neo-Nazi fascist.
Joke at the neo-Nazi fascist.
And then also by Tucker Carlson, by Fuentes, by Owens.
Fuentes hates Trump. He hates the Republicans.
We're seeing an attempt by these neo-Nazis to take over the Republican Party. Fortunately, good Republicans headed by President Trump.
All right, I'm not going to listen to all this. So this old man, he's doing the thing. If you disagree with we have to fight wars for Israel, you're a neo-Nazi. Don't you know that the Nazis are the most evil thing ever because of my 6 million? That's the playbook they've run forever. Yeah, so that is the case. So thank you for that. I don't think that's working as much anymore, but who knows? Maybe some people still buy into it. Older people maybe do, but young people aren't buying into it. Let's see here. I still miss Z-Man. Man, I do too. Wouldn't it be great if he was still alive and we could do analysis about the war? He had a really good perspectives, and I 100% miss him. Let's see here. Lapshade 99. I apologize. I meant Nurgle, the chaos god from Warhammer. 40K, my greatest apologies for my spelling error. Love you, you grandpa. I'm not a grandpa yet, but thank you for that. I never played Warhammer, to be honest. I know a lot of people do. There's a shop in Fayetteville. It's just about Warhammer. That's all they do. So I don't know if you guys play Warhammer, but that's it. All right, here's the first post he did. Pretend post 10, present 10, a garden of lies and corruption, like Nugal, the chaos god in plagues and famine. The god emperor is disgusted. Yeah, Trump, he's, I think, a combination of things that have happened with him. I think he's lost his footing. I really do. I think because of the assassination attempt, it really shook them up how close he came to having his head blown off. I mean, that has to mess with you. And then you think like, wow, I just happened to turn my head then. It must be because of God. And then he surrounded himself with people like these Christian Zionist charlatans that say, yeah, God has a special plan for you to help bring in Zion and bring in Jesus. You're going to be like David and all these great figures. And I think because Trump's always been a narcissist, and plus he turns 80 this year, he's starting to lose some critical thinking ability. It's true. And so it appealed to him. And that's what he did. Sup, Rams? What do you think JD Vance is up to right now? He may not run in 2028. He said he may not run, which would probably be smart. I think JD Vance, I get it. I like JD Vance. I know a lot of people don't like JD Vance because he used to be a neocon and everything. Now, maybe I'm alone, but I think he means well. There's been a lot. Well, Trump said that JD Vance was enthusiastic about this war. I think JD Vance has kept quiet and hasn't come out and opposed the war out of a misguided sense of loyalty. He almost thinks that Trump is his boss. I had someone comment on that. Well, he's got to be loyal to his boss, but the vice president doesn't report to the president. He doesn't. It's a separate office in the Constitution. President Trump cannot replace JD Vance. He can't. JD Vance is separate. And I wish JD Vance would have came out forcefully and said, I oppose this. It would have created a lot of issues. I get it. That's hard politically because Trump, I think JD Vance, if he wants to win the nomination, he still has to try to get these Trump supporters. So he doesn't want to alienate them. So he's walking a very fine line here. But obviously, I don't think he supports this war. He thinks it's a mistake. I think J.D. Vance, the best thing that would happen is if somehow Trump was removed from the scene, however, and J.D. Vance took over now. I really do think J.D. Vance would figure a way out of this, and he could because it wasn't him. I think he's smart, and I think he's not a Christian Zionist. And if I still think it's likely he will take over pretty soon, just because Trump is getting old. He could die. He could be impeached, removed, because the Republicans are just being killed in the polls. J.D. Vance may have still be something to happen here. That would be interesting. Yeah, as I said, I put this on an X. It's a little ironic. A guy that was born to, let's face it, white trash hillbillies is actually could actually save the day compared to a guy that was born to a rich New Yorker type guy. So kind of interesting. We will see. I'm hoping J.D. Vance can somehow do this. Supposedly, the Iranians said they're not going to negotiate anymore with Kushner and Witkoff because they got screwed twice. Plus, they're Jewish. They may prefer to negotiate with a Christian, J.D. Vance, a Catholic. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I don't know. I get a lot of people hate him though, but whatever. I think J.D. Vance does not support this, but he wants to still try to look like he's loyal. So it's a tough situation right now for J.D. Vance. All right. Yeah. K-Max. Hey, thank you, K-Max McDonald. K-Max McDonald, 6475. Rams, do you feel it's good to have reactions to neocon videos? I think they are so rarely challenged. It's good to see. Yeah. When they say Iran is our moral enemy, we need to say, as Z-Man says, who says response? Yeah, I mean, as I've said, Iranian, and again, I have to always put this out here. I do not, if I was like king of America and my mythical country, Muslims wouldn't be in here. So I don't want them in our nations. So I'm not simping for Muslims at all. And it's been a big problem in Europe. Although Sunnis are a little different than Shiites. These are Shiites or Shia, whatever. They need to keep it over there. But I have to say this. Iranians have never censored my videos. They're an ethnic group that never has. Another ethnic group has, but not the Iranians. Iranians aren't trying to limit our speech in America, saying if we don't support Iran, you can't get government contracts. Another ethnic group is doing that, right? So Iranians, they're not at saying we need to eliminate whiteness and we got to flood Western countries with non-whites because whiteness is evil. That's not the Iranians doing that. So it's hard for me to get all upset about the Iranians. I guess the last thing they did that was objectionable to America was 1979. They took some Americans hostage in the embassy, later released them. Now, again, I don't support that. But what have they done since? You could say, well, Hezbollah in 1983 killed the Marines. Yeah, but they were fighting in Lebanon against the Israel incursion, which Israel's doing again. Again, if we weren't there, it wouldn't have been an issue. Let's see here. Little Uzi Jacuzzi. I like your name. $10. Funny how Dershowitz never had a problem with Joe Kent while he was in office. But when he resigns, Nazi, someone needs to ask Dersh why he cares so much about Israel, a tiny country in the Middle East, because he's Jewish. That's why everyone knows it now. Yeah, the whole Nazi thing has been overused, and it doesn't really resonate anymore with people. It's just like, whatever. If everyone's a Nazi, then it doesn't mean anything. So, and it's impossible to be a Nazi in the first, if you're going to be technical, because it's a German, it stands for the German Workers' Socialist Party, which doesn't exist. You have to be in Germany. So the whole thing is stupid. It's just a way to say you have to agree with what we do. Otherwise, we're going to call you these bad names and try to hurt you. But thank you for that very much. I do appreciate that. Right here. Whoa, $100. Thank you, Lampshade. 99 was actually playing Warhammer is stupid and a waste of time. It's the lore based on the ancient Sumerian Persian lexicon that is cool and interesting. I will have to read that. Persians were pretty based. I mean, they were tough fighters. There was a Roman emperor that invaded Persia and was defeated and was captured by the Persians. And the story had it, he was killed because he was supposed to be really greedy and he loved gold. So the Persians, they poured molten gold down his throat. What a horrible way to die. Real Caucasians and all that shit. Yeah, that's where we get the term Aryan, is from the Persian. And poured in everything they could. Very biblical, very ancient. Yeah, they're very ancient people, Persians. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Extremely generous donation. Thank you very much. All right. Let me see here. Before I wrap up, I wanted to show you some other things that are a problem. Trump can be in denial, but is having political impact already. Let's take a look at this. Florida is slowly turning blue due to low Republican voter turnout. We've already had a couple elections and the Republicans got their ass kicked, because people are upset with Trump. They're not voting Democrats, but the Republicans aren't going to the polls. The base is demoralized and disappointed in the broken promises. Yeah, they voted for mass deportations and return got a war for Israel instead. Not even Fox News fake 100% approval polls can trick voters into voting for this disgusting and unpopular Israel first agenda. And Emily Gregory, a Democrat, defeats Joe Maples, and again, he was an Israeli guy, in the Florida special election. I guess that was the district that Mar-a-Lago's in. And so there you go. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, she talked about this too. I'd like to congratulate two-time congressional candidate loser Laura Loomer, mega foreign agent op Mark Levin, and neocon murdering psycho Senator Lindsey Graham for leading Republicans into a slaughter going into the midterms. And these are all the ones. Democrats have flipped a total of 12 legislative seats in the special election. They had some elections here recently. Democrats, they swept them all. Again, people are really upset with the direction of the Republican Party. As I said, I'm not going to vote for any Republican that takes AIPAC money. That's a hard line for me now. I'm not going to vote Democrat, but at this point, we don't have control over our country. And why should I vote for someone that's not going to represent me, but it's going to represent Israel, right? Why should I support Tom Cotton when he doesn't give a fuck about people in Arkansas? All he cares about is Israel because they buy him. I'm not interested in that. So this is becoming a disaster quickly for the Republicans. Trump could kill the party. And I hate to say it because it's going to be horrible for America, but he brought it on himself. Okay. Anyway, guys, this has been a good show. Thank you very much. And I'll be back tomorrow and we'll see what happens. But God bless you. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.